The 3 moons of New Genesis cast pale shadows across the crystalline spires of Brighton Tower. Inside her quarters, Noelle Brighton stood at the window, watching ships drift through the evening sky like mechanical fireflies. At 16, she'd already learned to read the subtle signs of trouble in her father's corporate empire, the increasing security presence, the whispered conversations, the way her mother's smile had grown strained over the past month. "Your father requests your presence in the executive suite," announced the house AI, its voice unnaturally cheerful. Noelle's fingers traced the pendant at her throat, her grandmother's final gift before passing. Something felt wrong. The air itself seemed charged with tension, like the moment before a storm. As she made her way through the penthouse's curved corridors, she caught glimpses of staff hurriedly removing artwork and family heirlooms. The executive suite doors parted with a soft hiss. Inside, her father stood with his back to her, staring out at the cityscape. 2 figures in sleek corporate uniforms flanked him, representatives from the Centaurian Alliance, their silver insignias gleaming. A third person, a woman in a crimson business suit, turned to study Noelle with calculating eyes. "This is her," the woman asked, circling Noelle slowly. "The genetic markers are strong. You can see it in the orbital patterns around her iris." "Fascinating." "Father?" Noelle's voice wavered. "What's happening?" Richard Brighton didn't turn around. His shoulders were rigid, hands clasped behind his back. "The corporation is failing, Noelle. The debris mining accident in the Kuiper Belt destroyed our primary extraction fleet. Our investors are pulling out. But we can rebuild. Noelle started. "No." Her father's voice cracked. "The Centaurian Alliance has offered a solution. A trade." The woman in red smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Your daughter's genetic profile is quite unique, Mr. Brighton. The convergence of terrestrial and altered DNA sequences, we've seen nothing like it. The Alliance is prepared to absorb all of Brighton Corporation's debts in exchange for custody of Noelle." The words hit like a physical blow. Noelle stumbled backward, her mind refusing to process their meaning. "You're selling me? Your own daughter?" "It's not like that," her father whispered. "The Alliance will provide you with opportunities, education, training. You'll be part of something greater. I'll be property." Noelle's voice rose. "How can you do this? Where's Mother?" "Your mother has been sedated. It's better this way." The corporate guards moved forward, producing a contract tablet. Noelle's legs trembled as reality crashed in around her. She looked at her father, searching for any sign of the man who had once carried her on his shoulders, who had taught her to pilot her first skimmer, who had promised to always protect her. He finally turned, his face aged decades in moments. "Sometimes being a leader means making impossible choices. The company employs thousands. Their families depend on us. One sacrifice to save many, it's what your grandmother would have understood." "Don't you dare speak of her," Noelle spat. Her hand clutched her grandmother's pendant. "She would never have betrayed family." The woman in red stepped forward. "If you come quietly, you'll be allowed to keep personal items. Resist, and we'll be forced to take more, aggressive measures." Noelle looked between the guards, the woman, and her father. The pendant felt warm against her skin, almost pulsing. In that moment, something crystallized inside her, a hardening of spirit, a transformation from daughter to survivor. "I want you to remember this moment," she said to her father, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "Remember how it feels to trade your child's life for credits. Remember it when you're alone in this tower with nothing but your precious corporation for company." The guards took her arms, their grips professional but firm. As they led her away, Noelle held her head high, refusing to give her father the satisfaction of seeing her break. She didn't know then that this betrayal would set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy, that her grandmother's pendant contained secrets that would one day make her both savior and sovereign. In her quarters, they allowed her 10 minutes to pack. Noelle moved mechanically, selecting practical items, clothes, her personal tablet, basic toiletries. The woman in red supervised, making notes on her own device. "Your genetic profile suggests latent abilities," the woman said conversationally. "The Alliance has facilities dedicated to developing such potential. You may find your new life more interesting than you expect." Noelle ignored her, focused on maintaining her composure. As she changed into the provided Alliance uniform, she slipped her grandmother's pendant beneath it, pressing it against her skin where it could draw strength from her heartbeat, just as she'd been taught. The transport waited on the private landing pad, its black hull absorbing the moonlight. As Noelle walked toward it, she felt the weight of her father's gaze from the executive suite above. She didn't look back. The daughter he knew died the moment he signed those papers. Whoever she would become, that person was born in betrayal, forged in the crucible of survival. The transport's doors sealed with a pneumatic thunk, cutting off her view of the only home she'd ever known. As they lifted into the night sky, Noelle pressed her hand against her grandmother's pendant and made a silent vow. She would survive. She would learn. And one day, she would understand why her grandmother's final words had been so urgent, so afraid. "Keep it safe, child. When the time comes, it will show you the way." 3 months into her rehabilitation at the Centaurian Alliance Genetic Research Facility, Noelle learned that screams had colors. Pain blazed red, fear pulsed a sickly green, and despair was a deep, consuming purple that filled the corridors after lights out. She lay on her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling as another subject's anguish painted the darkness. The facility housed dozens like her, people with unique genetic markers, all acquired through various means. Some sold by desperate families, others captured from outer colonies. All lab rats in the Alliance's endless experiments. Subject 274, prepare for morning assessment, the facility AI chimed. Noelle closed her eyes, centering herself. Her grandmother's pendant remained her one secret, hidden in a compartment she'd carved into her bed frame. She touched it briefly for luck before rising. Dr. Raina Vale waited in the testing chamber, her white coat immaculate as always. "Good morning, Noelle. Sleep well?" "Wonderfully," Noelle replied, her voice dripping sarcasm. "The screaming is better than a lullaby." Vale's lips tightened. "Your attitude doesn't serve you. The sooner you embrace your role here, the easier things will become." "My role as a lab rat, you mean?" "As a key to understanding human potential." Vale gestured to the testing apparatus, a sphere of neural sensors surrounding a single chair. "Your readings are extraordinary. The way you process energy, the sensitivity to others' emotional states, we've never seen anything like it." Noelle took her place in the chair, familiar with the routine. The sensors hummed to life, scanning her neural patterns. But today felt different. The air seemed charged, like static before a storm. "Beginning absorption test," Vale announced. "Focus on the energy signature." A holographic pattern appeared before Noelle, swirling colors meant to trigger her abilities. Usually, she pretended to struggle, hiding the true extent of what she could do. But today, something new happened. As she watched the pattern, she began to see beyond it, through it. The facility's security feeds flickered in her mind. Camera angles, guard rotations, door codes, information flooded her consciousness. And beneath it all, a presence. Someone else, watching. Searching. "Remarkable," Vale muttered, studying her readings. "The neural pathway expansion is dash." An alarm blared, cutting her off. The facility's lights shifted to emergency red. Vale rushed to check her console as guards burst into the room. "Security breach in Sector 7, one reported. Possible infiltration team." Lock down the subjects, Vale ordered. 274, back to your cell. As guards led her out, Noelle caught a glimpse of the security feeds. A figure in maintenance coveralls was moving through the facility's lower levels, disabled cameras marking their path. Their movements were too precise, too practiced. This was no random breach. Back in her cell, Noelle pressed her hand against the hidden pendant. It felt warm, almost vibrating. The facility's systems continued to flow through her mind, a new awareness she couldn't explain. Through the digital noise, she sensed the intruder getting closer. Hours passed. The lockdown continued as security teams swept the facility. Noelle waited, watching through her newfound connection to the surveillance system. The intruder had vanished, but something told her they weren't gone. At precisely midnight, her cell door clicked. Standing in the doorway was a tall man in a guard's uniform, his features sharp and weathered. But his eyes held a familiar fire. "Noelle Brighton," he whispered. "My name is Lieutenant Adam Drake, Earth Resistance. Your grandmother sent me." The pendant pulsed against her skin. Noelle stood slowly, years of caution warring with desperate hope. "Prove it." He smiled slightly, pulling out a chain identical to hers. "The way will open when the children of stars remember their birthright." Noelle's breath caught. Her grandmother's words. "Why now? Why did you wait so long? We needed you to develop your abilities." The Alliance's tests, as cruel as they were, helped activate what was dormant. He glanced down the corridor. "We don't have much time. There's something you need to know about your grandmother, about why the Alliance really wanted you." Footsteps echoed from around the corner. Drake tensed. "Choice is yours. Stay and remain a test subject, or come with me and learn the truth about who you really are." Noelle thought of her father, of his choice that had sent her here. Now it was her turn to choose. The pendant hummed, as if encouraging her. Through her new connection to the facility systems, she could sense guards converging on their position. "Show me," she said. Drake nodded, pulling out a small device. "Hold on. This will be rough." As alarms began to blare, he activated the device. Reality twisted, folded, and Noelle's world dissolved into light. Her last thought before consciousness faded was that her father's betrayal hadn't destroyed her, it had set her free. And somewhere in the void between spaces, her grandmother's pendant sang with ancient power, awakening something that had slept in her blood for generations. The real question wasn't who had betrayed her. It was who she had been all along. Consciousness returned like scattered puzzle pieces slowly fitting together. Noelle opened her eyes to find herself in what appeared to be an abandoned mining outpost, its curved walls carved directly into an asteroid. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and mineral dust. Lieutenant Drake stood at a holographic console, his fingers dancing across light patterns. Around him, other resistance members moved with purpose, their uniforms a mix of salvaged military gear and civilian clothing. "Where are we?" Noelle asked, sitting up slowly on the medical cot. "Welcome to Haven Station," Drake replied, not looking up from his work. "One of the last free outposts beyond Alliance control. Your grandmother helped establish it 20 years ago." A woman approached, her dark hair streaked with silver, carrying what looked like ancient scrolls. "I'm Dr. Thea Blackwood. I worked with your grandmother on Project Starborn." She spread the scrolls across a nearby table. "What do you know about your family's true history?" Noelle stood, drawn to the strange symbols on the yellowed papers. They seemed to shift and move under her gaze. "Only what my grandmother hinted at before she died. That we were different. That it wasn't safe to talk about why. Your grandmother wasn't just a corporate wife," Thea explained. "She was part of a secret scientific coalition studying an anomaly we discovered 50 years ago, a tear in spacetime that showed us glimpses of other realities. What we saw there changed everything we thought we knew about human potential. Drake joined them, his expression grave. The Alliance didn't want you for simple genetic research, Noel. They wanted to weaponize what's inside you. What's inside all the Starborn children? Starborn? Thea pointed to a diagram on one of the scrolls, a double helix wrapped in strange, glowing patterns. When we found the tear, we were exposed to something we called stellar radiation. It changed those of us who survived, altered our DNA. But the real changes appeared in our children, and their children. The pendant, Noel touched where it should have been, panic rising. Is safe, Drake assured her, producing it from his pocket. We had to remove it during transport to mask its energy signature. It's not just jewelry, it's a key, passed down through your family line. Each one unique, each one containing part of the truth. As he handed it back, the pendant grew warm. Symbols like those on the scrolls began to glow along its surface. Noel gasped as knowledge flooded her mind, images of the tear in space, of the beings they'd glimpsed there, of the power they'd shared. Your father didn't just sell you to save his company, Thea said softly. He sold you because the Alliance threatened to reveal everything, to expose your family's involvement in Project Starborn. He thought he was protecting you from a worse fate. But he played right into their hands, Drake added. They've been collecting Starborn children for years, studying them, trying to unlock their abilities. What they don't know is that there's something coming, something we saw through the tear. A threat that only the Starborn can face. A distant alarm sounded. One of the Resistance members rushed in. Alliance ships detected at the outer marker. They've tracked us. Drake cursed. Faster than expected. Noel, we need to move. There's a safe house in the Europan colonies. No. Noel stood straighter, the pendant's glow reflecting in her eyes. I'm tired of running. Of hiding. If what you say is true, if there are others like me being held by the Alliance, we need to free them. It's suicide, Drake protested. Their facilities are fortresses. Not to me. Noel closed her eyes, reaching out with her new awareness. The station systems responded, displaying security feeds, communication channels, ship locations. The experiments they did on me, they didn't just activate my abilities. They taught me how to use them. Thea studied her with growing wonder. Your grandmother said you would be the strongest of us. That you'd inherit both the first generation's connection to the tear and the second generation's natural abilities. Then let's put that inheritance to use. Noel opened her eyes, determination replacing fear. The Alliance thinks they've been creating weapons? Let's show them exactly what their weapons can do. The alarm grew louder. Through the station's sensors, Noel could feel Alliance ships surrounding them. But she also felt something else, distant minds glowing like stars, other Starborn children reaching out across space. Waiting. Hoping. Your grandmother had a plan, Thea said, gathering the scrolls. A way to unite the Starborn, to prepare for what's coming. But it required someone strong enough to lead them. Noel touched the pendant, feeling its power pulse in sync with her heartbeat. Then let's not keep them waiting. It's time the Alliance learned what happens when you try to cage the children of stars. Drake smiled grimly, checking his weapons. I was hoping you'd say that. What's our first move? Outside, Alliance ships began their attack run. But Noel wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time since her father's betrayal, she felt truly awake. The pendant's light spread through her veins like liquid starfire, and the station systems sang under her touch. First, she said, her voice carrying echoes of ancient power, we remind them that some chains can't hold us. And then we wake up the others. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. And this time, Noel wouldn't be the one caught unprepared. The Alliance flagship, Dominion, loomed before them, a behemoth of dark metal and pulsing energy cores. From the bridge of their stolen stealth vessel, Noel watched as Drake guided them through the debris fields surrounding Europa. Behind them, a small fleet of resistance ships followed in their wake, cloaked and silent. "Status on the other facilities?" she asked, fingers trailing over her pendant's warm surface. Thea looked up from her console. "Our teams are in position near all 5 Alliance genetic research stations. They're awaiting your signal." The past week had been a blur of preparation and revelation. With each passing day, Noel's abilities had grown stronger. She could now reach across vast distances, touching the minds of other Starborn, sharing their pain, their hope, their power. "Incoming transmission," Drake announced. "Encrypted channel." A familiar voice filled the bridge. "This is Dr. Vale. I know you're out there, Noel. We need to talk." Noel exchanged glances with her companions before nodding. A hologram materialized. Vale looked exhausted, her usual pristine appearance showing signs of strain. "You've caused quite a stir," Vale said. "The Alliance leadership is in chaos. They know what's coming, what we glimpsed through the tear. They're desperate. Desperate enough to torture children?" Noel's voice was ice. "You don't understand. The entity we saw, the Void Hunger, it's approaching faster than predicted. The Alliance believed controlling the Starborn was our only chance at survival." Drake's hands tightened on the controls. "By turning them into weapons? By preparing them?" Vale's composure cracked. "Your grandmother knew, Noel. Why do you think she established the Genetic Markers program? She was trying to identify potential Starborn before the Alliance could find them." Noel's pendant pulsed. Through it, she could feel the other prisoners in the facilities, hundreds of transformed children, each carrying a fragment of power from beyond the tear. "You're right about one thing. We are weapons. But not yours to control." She closed her eyes, extending her consciousness through the station's systems. In her mind, she could see the Void Hunger approaching, a vast darkness between the stars, consuming everything in its path. The tear hadn't been a random anomaly. It had been a warning. "The Alliance facilities," Noel said, opening her eyes. "They're not just research stations, are they? The positioning, the energy signatures, they form a pattern." Vale's hologram flickered. "Your grandmother designed them. Each one sits on a point of stellar convergence. Together, they can reopen the tear. And you thought controlling the Starborn would let you harness that power?" Thea's voice dripped contempt. "The tear nearly destroyed us the first time. Better destruction than consumption by the Void," Vale countered. "At least with the tear, we had a chance to fight back." Noel stood, her decision made. "You're wrong. Fighting isn't enough. We need to understand." She turned to Drake. "Take us in. It's time to free the others." The battle that followed would be remembered in whispered stories across 1,000 worlds. Resistance ships emerged from Cloak, engaging Alliance defenders. But the real fight happened in the digital realm, where Noel's consciousness danced through security systems, shattering locks and barriers. One by one, cells opened. Starborn children emerged, their own pendants and tokens glowing with ancient light. Through their shared connection, Noel showed them the truth, not just about the Alliance's deception, but about their own nature. They weren't weapons. They were bridges between realities, created when humanity first touched the infinite. And together, they could do more than fight. They could transform. In the chaos of battle, Noel made her way to the facility's core, where her grandmother's real work waited. Vale met her there, holding a familiar device. "Your grandmother left this for you," Vale said, offering it. "She knew you'd come. Knew you'd understand what needed to be done." Noel took the device, feeling its resonance with her pendant. "The tear doesn't need to be reopened. It never fully closed. We just needed enough Starborn awakened to sense it. Around them, the facility hummed with power as hundreds of transformed children added their energy to Noelle's. Through their combined consciousness, she could see the pattern her grandmother had created, not a weapon, but a key. The void hunger isn't our enemy, Noelle realized, the truth unfolding in her mind. It's running from something worse. Something that only humanity, transformed by the tear, can face. Vale's eyes widened. What are you going to do? Noelle smiled, her form beginning to shimmer with stellar energy. What my grandmother prepared us for. We're going to offer it sanctuary. And then we're going to evolve. The device activated, and reality began to shift. The final battle wouldn't be fought with weapons or ships. It would be won with understanding, with transformation, with the power of humanity reaching beyond its own limitations. And somewhere, in the space between spaces, Noelle's grandmother smiled as her granddaughter finally embraced her true inheritance. Through the combined consciousness of hundreds of Starborn children, Noelle could feel everything, every ship in the massive fleet that had gathered around Europa, every mind watching in fear and wonder as reality itself began to bend. The void hunger loomed at the edge of their solar system, a darkness deeper than space itself. Energy convergence at maximum, Thea reported, her voice tight with tension. The tear is responding. The facility's core chamber had become a nexus of light, each Starborn contributing their power to Noelle's effort. Their grandmother's device pulsed in sync with their combined heartbeats, weaving stellar energy into patterns older than time. Through their shared vision, Noelle addressed them all. What we face isn't just about survival. It's about evolution. Humanity's next step. The tear showed our ancestors a glimpse of what we could become. Now it's time to embrace that future. The void hunger drew closer, its presence causing instruments to fail across the system. But through their enhanced perception, the Starborn could see its true nature, not a destroyer, but a refugee, fleeing from cosmic forces that sought to prevent the very evolution humanity was undertaking. Multiple Alliance warships dropping out of hyperspace, Drake warned. They're charging weapons. Let them come, Noelle said softly. They need to witness this. She raised her grandmother's pendant, now blazing like a miniature sun. Around her neck, it had always been a reminder of loss. In her hands, it became a key to salvation. The device responded, projecting a cascade of living light that wrapped around the assembled Starborn. Through their link, memories flowed. She saw her father in his office, receiving a message from her grandmother years ago, "Protect her, Richard. When the time comes, she'll understand why we had to hide her true nature." She felt his anguish at the choice he'd made, believing it would keep her safe from forces he didn't understand. The tear in reality widened, not with the violent destruction the Alliance had feared, but with the gentle precision of cellular division. The void hunger slowed its approach, sensing the change. "They're awakening," Thea whispered in awe. "All of them. Not just the children in the facilities. Starborn across the galaxy." She was right. Noelle could feel others joining their consciousness, thousands of hidden descendants of the original project, their dormant abilities stirring to life. The Alliance's secret had never been as contained as they'd believed. Vale stumbled forward, her own pendant finally emerging from beneath her collar. "Your grandmother," she knew. "All these years, I thought I was containing the spread, but I was part of her plan." "We all were." "Not containing," Noelle corrected. "Cultivating. Preparing. Every test, every experiment, they weren't about weaponizing us. They were teaching us to control our abilities for this moment." The void hunger reached their position. Alliance ships fired desperately, their weapons useless against its vast darkness. But Noelle and the Starborn saw past its surface, to the wounded reality within. "Now," she commanded. As one, they opened themselves to the tear. Power flowed through them, not destructive but transformative. The void hunger responded, its darkness beginning to shift and change. Through their enhanced perception, they could see the truth. It was a piece of broken universe, twisted by the same forces that had tried to prevent humanity's evolution. They offered it not just sanctuary, but healing. Integration. Reality shuddered. The tear widened fully, not to the chaos of before, but to a new state of existence. The Starborn's light met the void hunger's darkness in a dance of cosmic forces. Where they merged, something new emerged, a hybrid state of being that bridged dimensions. Through it all, Noelle felt her grandmother's presence in the patterns of energy, in the careful design that had led to this moment. The betrayals, the pain, the years of preparation, all had served to bring them here. The transformation rippled outward. Alliance ships hung frozen in space as their crews experienced humanity's next step firsthand. The void hunger's darkness became part of them, its ancient knowledge merging with human consciousness to create something unprecedented in the universe. In the aftermath, as the light settled into new patterns and the tear stabilized into a permanent bridge between states of being, Noelle turned to find her father standing in the doorway of the core chamber. His eyes were wide with wonder and regret. "I never knew," he whispered. "Your grandmother, she left me a message, set to deliver only after I betrayed you. She knew I would. Knew it would set all this in motion." Noelle looked at him through new eyes, eyes that could see the patterns of time and choice that had led them here. "Some betrayals are really sacrifices in disguise," she said softly. "We all played our parts." The facility hummed with transformed energy as humanity took its first steps into a new age. The void hunger, no longer running, no longer hungry, became their teacher in navigating the higher dimensions they now inhabited. And in the space between old reality and new, Noelle felt her grandmother's final message, not in words but in the weave of the universe itself: "Some chains set us free." The age of the Starborn had begun. And with it, humanity's true journey among the stars could finally start.